My name is Beatrice Green. The Bones We Carry.
Tell me a little about the book.
The book is a collection of poems and short prose by Streetfeet Women. Streetfeet Women is a group of multicultural writers and performers. Some of us are, Lehman is the artist who did the artwork for the book, and Veronique Epiter is also an artistic contributor. She's not a member of Street Feet. Aura Sanchez is one of the writers. Chris Fadala. Lehman is also one of our writers. Mary Milner McCullough and Elena Harrop and myself are the 6 writers for the book. So it was quite an adventure pulling all of these people together and their ideas. The themes in the book include social justice, nature, personal stories about our lives as women, married women, single women, things that happen to challenge us in terms of physical challenges. So that's a little bit about the subject matter that's contained in the book.
Tell me a little about your writings in the book.
My writings in the book are all very personal. One of the poems I wrote about is about jazz, and I came to Boston many years ago to study jazz and to go back and live a different existence again. And so jazz is very much part of my transforming experience in my life. So that was just an exciting poem to write, and it's honoring John Coltrane, who was a big influence in terms of just pulling me out of myself, out of my comfort zone, and into a whole different life. I have another poem entitled Ancestral Waters, and that's about my tie with my ancestors and the strength that they bring to my life. I wrote the poem at a time that I was very down, and I was inspired to write it because I remembered the strength of the African ancestors that I refer to in this particular book. I refer to them as an African American. So those are 2 of the poems, and then there's a poem about my mother and about how I felt after she passed away, and yet drew strength from her life as well. So those are 3 of the poems that I contributed to the book. There's another poem about a friend of mine who was in New Orleans at the time of Hurricane Katrina. So that's again about her life journey and trying to change her life around.
I'm Elena Harrop, member of the Streetfeet Women, and I've been a member since the beginning in 1982. And in this book, I'm one of the contributors. Also, I was part of the team that edited and then produced this book.
And tell me a little about any of your contributions in the book.
One thing I chose was some pieces that were formal poems. They're in the form of a villanelle. And that was partly, we had talked about why we write, and I write poems often to celebrate something. And I used a form that is sort of traditional, and I thought it gave dignity to the subject when I was writing about a girls' baseball team in Mission Hill. And when I lived in the Mission Hill neighborhood, in fact, I was in a very informal writing group that called itself Paper Lip, and that was in the library at Parker Hill Branch Library. I think I started being interested in writing and publishing after I was married and had kids. But as a little girl, once I wrote a poem and my mother I spoke a poem, and my mother put it into writing and put it in a cover, and I felt something very special had happened. And I think that sense of making a book, letting your piece out and it's separate from you, might have started then.
And what advice do you have for other aspiring writers?
Oh, I think don't let the turkeys get you down, that you write for yourself. You find the very best coaches that you can who will cheer you on and be really rigorous. And I think it's good to have a writing buddy, or maybe a group, as we have had with Streetfeet.
I've been writing, well, I started writing when I was about 9 or 10. I kept a travel journal when I traveled cross country on a bus with my aunt at age 11. And I just always enjoyed writing. I did a lot of writing during my undergraduate studies at the College of Worcester. I did 5 independent study projects, one of which was about Kwame Nkrumah, another one comparing Harold Cruz's book, Rebellion or Revolution, with Albert Camus' book, The Rebel. And I did a lot of writing at that time, comparing also the philosophy of Martin Luther King with the philosophy of Malcolm X. So those are some of the writing experiences that I've had over the years. More recently, I started reading poetry. And when I say reading poetry, reading my poetry, reading what I wrote. So it's been a relatively recent phenomena, I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years, that I started reading it and sharing what I wrote, hopefully as a form of healing or catharsis in other people, or challenge to other people's lives.
And what advice do you have for other aspiring writers?
Write. Write every day if you can, even 10 or 15 minutes. Just keep the activity of writing. Try to find at least one other person to share that with so you can hold each other accountable. There are many workshops. There's some workshops held here at Jamaicaway Books, and there are workshops sometimes at the library. So workshops are very helpful to help you grow. They're not always easy. They can be difficult to receive the criticism, but if you look at the criticism and say, well, what in this can help me grow, then it can be of use to you as you improve your writing.